Okay, writers, yesterday we read the book Encounter, and we decided it was a personal narrative. They just tell the story in an interesting way. Okay, when we read Encounter, do you remember talking about what it was about? We just talked about the story. Yes. That's what we call reading the story like a reader. You were the reader, right? As writers, we're not going to read our mentor books like readers anymore. We're going to read them like writers. That means we're going to talk about what the writer did to build the story in an interesting way. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, tell me what you remember about this book here. What's something you remember? Encounter is a book about what? What would you say? It was about people in the old days, and something happened to these people. Wouldn't you say that? Wouldn't you say that there was a bit of a problem in that story? That would be a problem, wouldn't it? Okay, do you know what that's called in books when we say, okay, the story went from this to this to this to this. There was some action in there. There was a problem in there. And it had a solution. It didn't have a happy solution, but it had a solution. Do you know what that's called? It's a little tiny word. It has 4 letters. What?
Plot.
A plot. The story had a plot. What did we say? The story had a what?
A plot.
A plot. You know what? Personal narratives have a plot. Personal narratives have a plot. Okay. Let's see. What else do personal narratives have? Do you remember this part? I'm going to read you a little piece of it, and I'm going to ask you to tell me what did the author do in here to build this story. Not what happened, because that's reading like a reader, but we're going to talk about what did the author do to build this story. Our young men left the shelter of trees. I, who was not one of them, followed, crying, "Do not welcome them. Do not call them friends." No one listened. Our chief said, "We must see if they are true men." The writer putting in there that makes it a little bit more interesting. Do not follow them. Do not follow them. We must see if they are true men. What's the author doing there? She could have said, our chief doesn't think they came from Earth. But she didn't. She said, our chief said to us, see how pale they are? She could have said, our chief thinks we should see if they are true men. But instead she said, we must see if they are true men, said our chief. What are the characters in that story doing? In those parts that I read. What's the chief doing? What?
Talking.
They're talking. Our chief said, we must see if they are true men. The little boy said, do not follow them. What's that called in stories?
Dialogue.
There it is. There it is. All right. Dialogue. So we've got 2 now. 2 things that personal narratives have. What do they have? What was the first one? You said it.
Plot.
Plot. And the other one is?
Dialogue.
All right, let's try another one. This page could have said, the captain looked a little mean. Could have said that, but it didn't. It said, then I leaned forward and stared into their chief's eyes. They were blue and gray like the shifting sea. Suddenly, I remembered my dream, and I stared at each of those strangers in turn, and even those with dark human eyes looked away, like dogs before they are driven from the fire. Do you want to spend time with this man? Why not? It is scary. Is it scary because the author said, this man is mean and scary? What else? They showed it to us. They showed it to us with pictures and there's a lot of description there. So what did this author do with that character? How did she make him come alive?
She used more like describing language.
Oh, she did. She was really, really careful to explain her characters. So we're up to 3 now. We're up to 3. What do we have? First one was?
Plot.
plot. Something happens and it got solved. Second one is, which means what? The characters are doing what to each other?
Speaking to each other.
And then the third one was really strong developed characters. Yes. All right, there's one more. There's one more I want you to find. Ready? Listen carefully. I'm not giving any hints. I'm just going to read it. This is why I, an old man now, dream no more dreams. That's why I sit here wrapped in a stranger's cloak, counting the stranger's bells on a string, telling my story. May it be a warning to all the children and all the people in every land. He's telling us kind of what he thinks about this right now, right? We know how he feels about this, yes? Do we know how this man feels about this story? Is he a happy old man? Absolutely not. Do we know why he told this story? Why is he telling this story over and over and over again?
Oh, to warn people.
To warn people. Yeah. So you know what? Here's the clincher. A narrative is written with a reason. You gotta feel something and have a reason to tell it, not just, I want to tell you this story, but there's no reason for me to tell it to you. So 4 things. There's 4 things in a personal narrative. You gonna try all 4 of them? I should be writing it down, yes. Okay, 4 things. You got 4? I'm going to write them down as you tell me. I'll write them up here. Let's see. Maybe I am. Okay, personal narratives. The characters have really strong descriptions. You're right. They're well developed. We call them well developed characters. And there's one more, the last one we just did. A reason or a purpose. The author's reason, the author's purpose, the author's feeling. We now know from Jane Yolen's encounter, we've got 4 really good ways to build a narrative. Not that you're going to write a narrative about when you landed on an island and hurt yourself on swords. That's not your narrative. But we can build it the same way. And we're going to start this at that last one we talked about, that feeling level. That's what we're going to work on first. So to get our brains ready to find a good topic that you would want to write about, we're going to start with feelings. Just things that happened to you that made you feel a certain way, okay? Things that happened to you that made you feel a certain way. First line then, can you think and can you tell me one type of feeling you might have?
Angry.
Let's not do happy.
Angry. Could it be like
Stressed. Let's do that word, okay? So skip a bunch of lines and write stressed. And then we'll do a couple more lines. Regret would be a good one. Regret or remorse. Remorse is probably even stronger. So we could do sad, stressed, and regretful or remorseful. Let's try for 2 more. What are 2 more feelings there then?
angry.
Angry? I have a hard time believing you'd ever be angry about anything. How about proud? Something that you've been really, really proud of? How about scared? Scared of something. Do me a favor and just put your pencil down and then look at me. Just put your pencil down and look at me. All right. How many words did we get? How many is that?
7.
7? Okay. So you have 6 or 7
Oh, 6, yes, 6.
starter feelings. Think for a minute about a time you felt that way, that you would want to tell somebody else. If you don't want to tell me about that, then don't write it down. But a time that you wouldn't mind telling somebody about. And then next to each word, just write a little bit, not a whole bunch, but just a little bit to help you remember which time in your life that was, okay? And we're going to work on that for independent writing time. That's what we'll share when we get to share time.